be teaching the ring system. We've been over in Director's Cut for the last several weeks, and it's so hard for me to try and take the ideas that we're going to present to you over the course of the next few weeks and squish it down so that it kind of sort of maybe almost fits into the concept of a PBN. It's just a relief to be able to like say, okay, this is what you really want to do. So
ouch.
I am excited to be here. So there's a bunch of you guys who are coming to the live event this year. I know I've seen you in the list, and I suspect some of you are taking TFC 1 for the first time too. And so you're here, for those guys who are taking TFC 1 for the first time, you're building out your money site, that should be your focus. Make sure that you have that done before you hit certification, because you're going to need that. And so just like hang out in the webbies here and kind of absorb the information, let some light bulbs come on, but don't worry about actually trying to complete a WR2 and a WR3 site before cert, because it could cause serious physical damage. So we've got, yeah, I just don't want to stress you guys. So don't feel like you got to have that done before cert. My biggest complaint are the qualities of plugins out there. It's been like a toolbox where we've been plugging plugins in and throwing plugins out, and it's like the mechanic under the car that's just like, no, this part doesn't work, no, that part doesn't work. And I talked to Kelly last night about taking matters a little bit firmly in our own hands, because I just think some of these things are going to have to be rewritten. We've got things that will show you proof of concept, worst case scenario. They work, but they're perhaps just a little bit bent around an edge or something. So I'm going to try and have as many of the plugins completed by the end of this course as possible, but just know that we're going to have the entire suite by probably by the live event. So
and also, that being said, that you guys are the first to even have a lot of these conversations with us on, and so you'll have first access, and we'll be talking to some of you guys intimately as these things roll out, even in the beta form.
Exactly. So the first and foremost thing that you need to have before you can really start building a ring system is a money site. So give me a 1 if you've got your money site and it's completed, and give me a 2 if your money site's not completed. Okay.
And there's another one, Sue, a 3 if they've got a lead funnel set up.
Roz, your money site is completed.
All right. In my case, is the money site ever truly completed? Well, a few silos.
The framework is, you have at least one silo in place, or the framework is generally there.
All right. So for you guys that are still working toward that, if you've got at least one silo finished, then we can use the keywords out of that one silo. And for you guys, obviously the guys that are in Tech Foundation 1, moment they don't have their sites finished yet, which is most of the people that came back with the 2. So I think we're in pretty good shape. You know what we need to do today is a TLKT demo. Let me just pop this up here so that I don't forget. All right, so with that in mind, let's start with, oh wait, I had more questions.
Sales funnel, Sue. Working sales funnel was the other one.
Well, do you guys have a working sales funnel? Give me a 1 if you do, and a 2 if you don't. Just for Legion. You're talking about on the money site, right?
Yes.
And you want it just for lead gen? Why couldn't it be all the way through for a purchase?
It leads to transactions if we can generalize a funnel that creates transactions.
So we want a goal, basically. We need to be able to set up a goal in analytics.
Yes, we need to see
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah, so that's the, okay, working on the sales funnel too, good. So think about that. For you guys that are actually going to be completing your WR2s and WR3s, if you don't have some kind of a something, then I would set up just a form, like an Aweber form, so that we can have a place where we can put a goal completion code.
Yeah.
And if you need, I don't know how you guys are generally grabbing leads and the rest. You know, we have a series of a couple of plugins that I use for that, for lead aggregation, for double opt-in and the rest. And I'll talk to Sue a little bit later. I'm not sure. We cover that in other courses we cover, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
The reason why I was just asking that, guys, is if you've got a goal set up in a funnel, it means your analytics is working, and then from that we can start seeing what kind of traffic is coming from where. We need to start seeing in the beginning which of these sites we build are actually functioning. So that's just the reason behind why I asked that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into all of that next week.
And we covered UTM codes, I believe, in Tech Foundation.
So we cover them again next week.
Oh, excellent.
Good.
Great. They'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
Are there, just a quick question, are there anyone, has anyone in this training course not taken any other certification training? Give me a one if you've taken no other and you were just attracted to this one without any pre-existing interest. I know two, okay, just, all right, so everybody's taken something before. Okay, that's actually very helpful. Okay.
Just reading Brian's question. Yeah, I think that'll work fine, Brian.
Brian is saying, how about from scratch, major silo or pre-existing high authority client side of mine versus a completely new site that has a good sales funnel? Okay. Would that work for a live certification? No, Brian, you're not allowed to come. Just kidding. Brian, for you, I would make an exception. You pretty much know your stuff.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. All right,
Yeah.
so that was 3. We had, on your money site, do you currently have any traffic? Give me a 1 if that's true and a 2 if not. Excellent. Come on, I've only got 3 answers. I need everybody else. Oh yeah, obviously the guys that don't have their money site finished yet, they're going to be 2s. But of you guys that have got your money site finished, give me a 2 if that's like negligible or no traffic. Okay. All right, good. And all right. And so then what we're going to walk away with, I've already talked about that a little bit. So this is going to be a hands-on course. We're going to actually build a WR2 and a WR3 site. And so for you guys that are not currently building your WR1 site, by the end of this course you'll have WR2s and WR3s. For you guys that are currently building your WR1s, don't worry because, as I said, we're going to come out with better plugins shortly anyway. So, all right, let's delve in. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. Obviously, one of the really big issues when you're building a network, which could be construed as being against Google's terms of service, you want to avoid a footprint, right? You want to make it not obvious to both Google and your competitors that there's something that you're actually doing the building of this network. You want it to look natural. You want it to look organic, so as to speak. So I've got here a little bit. We talked in great depth in the semantic course about how easy it was to find a footprint, how easy it is to find a network. Because, you know, when you look at a picture like this, which is like a linking structure, right, so you've got, I think this is actually intended to be maybe pages on a single site, but the idea remains the same, right? You typically have one site that attracts a whole bunch of inbound links, and they link out to a few sites, and you get this cluster in the middle where you've got really highly trusted sites because everybody links to highly trusted sites. And so as you get out here to around the fringe, you've got less trafficked, less trusted, But, you know, when you look at a pattern like that, it seems really difficult to find, well, to actually find a pattern, right? Like that it doesn't stand out that there's some kind of linking structure going on that might be against Google's terms of service. But for you guys, particularly for you guys that have been through Jimmy's courses, the Traffic Hospital course, where he can come in and show you, you know, how many sites are pointed to a single domain that are owned by the same person, or they're on the same IP, or they're hosted on the same hosting company. Like, there's just a myriad of ways that you can find footprints. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how you want to avoid footprints. So let me just start with, I have that diagram in a different week, but I don't have it here. Where's a good image of the ring system, Russ? Does it swallow your market hall?
Yes, we have a couple. A good system is u-everywhere.com.
Swallow your market hole.
U-everywhere.
U-everywhere is better. That's the flash kind of, the marketing image.
So as you look at the ring system, the idea that we have with the WR2, obviously the WR2s are designed to link into the WR1 site. And they're also going to link into the WRS1 site. So pretty much as you move out, the next outer ring links predominantly into the ring immediately on the inside of it, but it links to a degree to all of the rings. So there are 2 or 3 things that differentiate what we have going on in the WR2 from a PBN. One of them is that we actually have a person take responsibility for the site. So we create social media accounts with a name across 4 or 5 social media accounts, and including a Google account, and we tie all of that to the website so that it looks more authentic. And then that site is tied to those social media accounts, obviously is going to broadcast to those social media accounts, and that creates a little cluster of, what would you call it, an identity, if you will, right? A little cluster of where this person is actually looking like they're doing something a little bit more natural. We talk about a standard 4 or 5 different platforms for each person, but you don't have to do that. You can leave one out here or there. You can mix it up. You can make each person look different. And in certification in the live event, we get into quite a bit of detail about, you know, exactly what extremes you can go to create those personas. But I'm just going to kind of be a little light about it here, because if we get into too much detail right now, then it really slows down trying to create the WR2s and WR3 sites. Excellent. Mike just had a mini light bulb. Excellent. So,
Dun, 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 dun.
all right, so that's part of what we do to avoid a footprint, is we're looking for, so when you're creating the WR2 sites, like, just think about, what I do is every time I create one of the WR2 sites, I put myself in the shoes of that persona. So I'm like, I have maybe a different theme. So like if the persona is going to be female, then I grab a more feminine theme. If it's male, I grab a more, you know, like, they tend to be cleaner, they tend to be more angular. Female themes tend to be, you know, softer colors, rounded edges, those kinds of things. So it just kind of like put myself in that mindset and pull those ideas in. So like on a female persona, I might have flowers, and on a male persona, I might have cars. Like, it depends on obviously what your market is, but you just kind of want to think different as you're doing each one. So let me just. I realized I actually. 2 cents. Whips. Oh, I forgot the whips and lots of coffee. All right, good. On to the leaving no footprint. Just see what it was that I wrote here. So then, yeah, what's the purpose of the site? Who's the audience? Okay, so then also in Tech Foundation 1, we talked about the life cycle of a customer, right? So you've got somebody that's going all the way from, hey, I just heard about this kind of a product, through to, wow, I'm looking for the details for this particular product. And some of those answers are going to be on the money site, like the particular technical details of a particular product. But it's also possible to sculpt some of your WR2 sites to be anywhere from the beginning to more along the middle, right? So you could have initial inquiry sites. You could also throw wiki-type sites into here where you've got definitions. Like, we're just going to talk about 2 very specific types of sites, one in the WR2, one in the WR3. But as you're creating your ring system, I don't want you to be limited to those spots. So oftentimes I'll have a person that's got actually 2 or 3 different kinds of sites in a WR2, as well as the social media that's associated with them, and some might be more static than the others. And some of them might have content that's coming up from the WR1 site, but depending on what my goal is, some of them might just be info sites or an info subdomain or something like that that is targeting more a particular aspect of the person in the buying cycle.
Yeah. Example of that, guys, would be in Sass's example, they specialize in hair and makeup and weddings, right? But there's nothing stopping them setting up a wedding dresses site or a wedding events coordinator site and then putting their branding on that site for the haircuts and then passing the leads on. So that's a typical example of a WR2 where it's not your primary business, it's a secondary tangent that you can utilize to generate more income for your own business.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely want to, you can think outside the box. You can do some really creative stuff with the advertising on these sites too, which we will get into more toward the end of the course. But yeah, so exactly what Matt was saying, you've got brides that are looking for all kinds of add-on services. You've also got, it's like, so Jimmy just got hacked, and we were just looking through for information on questionable services that were running on his computer. And we hit several different forums. Most of the content was a little bit on the older side, but it had the information that we were looking for. Real super high technical. The forum might not have much going on in the way of it, like it might be a real slow moving forum, but it provided information in a very particular aspect of the life cycle of a computer. Right? So just food for thought. All right. So you're going to want to change up the look and feel. You're going to want to. So let me talk for a minute about themes. I tend to use popular themes. I don't go off on a tangent and use less tried themes simply because they tend to have a lot of issues. So I'll go to WordPress and I'm sure you guys know all this. I don't want to beat dead horses, but I'll go to WordPress here and I'll just look for the ones that are the most popular. And I think there's a section on here of recommended. And those are the ones that I tend to stay with. There's two reasons for that. They're going to have most of the bugs worked out of them, and there's going to be lots and lots of people using them, so I fade further into the background, right? If you use, you don't want to reuse themes regularly within any one particular market. When you have a different market, you got a different money site, then you can reuse themes. So I don't go out typically and buy themes. I've tried subscribing to some of those services that have got 20, 30, 50, 60 themes, and typically their coding is a bit frustrating. So I tend to just, I stick with the really, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you know, if my outsourcers come back and say to me, hey, we're having issues with this theme, I'm just like, dump it and go on to the next one. That being said, the ones that are free and come with WordPress, there's no reason why you can't reuse those 2 or 3 times, because that's just so frippin' obvious. So, all right, but if you're going to reuse them, then you want to change colors, like change it up a little bit. I do mostly free themes. I haven't had really good luck with the paid themes. So like obviously the ones that are paid that are really great are things like Genesis, right? But if I've got such an investment, I mean, I have Genesis anyway, so using Genesis once in each one of my markets isn't a problem. But to go out and spend a fair amount of money on a theme like that and only be able to use it once per market, I don't think the ROI is necessarily there. Yeah. So plugins. So we're going to give you a set of plugins that we use for each style of site, the WRTs, WR3s. Doesn't mean that you can't add a few more plugins on each one. You can mix it up and make them different so that you don't have a footprint in your plugins. But Matt's also going to talk to you about what you can do to put the snooping to a minimum so that they can't actually get a list of what plugins you're running and make it quite so obvious that you got a system going on. Let me just see if there's anything else I want to cover before I pass it over to Matt. Oh, the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to show you just a couple of different page layouts, but as you go through, remember to mix your page layouts up. So you can, you know, videos typically you're just going to engage better if they're toward the top of the screen, but like we've got RSS feeds that we're going to show you that those can go anywhere, sometimes in the sidebar, sometimes in the content area. Really versatile plugin that I really like, and so you know, make sure that you throw images in from time to time. So there's a handful of static pages that we start out with, and then we've got content that auto-gens past that point. So it's kind of key that those pages, the silo pages or the static pages on the WR2 site, it's kind of key that you mix those up and they don't all look alike from site to site, because that just makes things really, really obvious.
Yeah. You can spot those sites from a mile away. The patterns become very apparent.
Yeah. So Kevin asked if it's better to use responsive themes, and you know, right this minute I would kind of mix them up because not everybody's using a responsive theme. I would definitely go more toward that route. The idea is to drive traffic as well as inbound links. So I don't want to make them user unfriendly as more and more people go to mobile. Although I gotta say, after I was reading security stuff the last couple of days, I might remove the browser from my phone. But I'm sorry, it was just kind of a traumatic experience. That's overkill, obviously, but
Zero-day exploit.
right.
Boom. Hashtag. Created by the
That's
spy.
a whole other kind of boom.
Created by the spyware companies for a propaganda campaign. Under a pseudonym, of course.
Yeah. All right. So yes, mix the elements up on the page, mix up the widgets, the orders of the widgets, and the sidebars and that kind of stuff. All right.
Just an update on that, guys. Seriously, just for community members, your Flash Flash has a major 0-day exploit from the last 35 days. Make absolute sure that you do not have version. Make sure you have it updated. You guys probably already know that. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Sue.
Cool. I think I'll turn it over to Matt at this point. Matt, do you want to share your screen? Do you want me to share?
You can share, Sue, just to keep the bandwidth limited then.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, what we want to do here, when we speak about hiding our footprints, what we're going to try and do is, if you do a lot of scraping, for example, or you're looking for backlinks we can post, obviously using footprints. So anything that's common that reoccurs throughout your themes, typically what I try and do is I try and eliminate those identifiers, because if you just use a Google Doc with the in-text operator, it's very easy to find hundreds of sites that actually are that way. Then coming from the site, your on-page elements, the way you do things like Sue's been speaking about, they also leave footprints. So if we're looking for a specific client, we can get them through their domain name, we can get them through their the registration things they have on their actual site. So if you're doing stuff in the legal business or in the financial industry, each site that's actually trading there needs to have specific codes and licenses, and you can find out how many sites these people have by doing that. So that's the on-page stuff. Now when we start looking at actually the WordPress core and we start looking down at the plugins and how everything works at the bottom layer, okay, this is where we start playing with HTTP access, and with the HTTP access we can start locking things down and rejecting people from looking at specific things. So the first one we have is for WP config. Okay, the WP config file, if that's left unprotected, I can get your database admin access literally in like 20-30 seconds if I can get access to that file. Okay, so that's the first HTTP access we got there. Now what I want to say before we start looking at these ideas is, when using HTTP access, you need to make a backup of your original one if your site's working. Don't just copy and paste the code in and if something goes wrong, not have a backup. When you try and apply and work with HTTP access, you need to make sure your backups are secure, and then you basically can start creating a new file and you test out each element that I'm showing you, or each block of code as you go on. Okay, so WP config. That gives you direct access to your database. That's where you put all your information in, so you want to lock that down. Okay, that locks hackers out. Prevent directory browsing. If you don't have an index.html or index.php file in your actual root of your server, you can get to see the file structure. So if people don't upload their WordPress properly and leave the WP plugins folder open or delete that index file, then essentially we can just go straight to that directory and we can look at all their files, and we can even download them through the browser. We can just highlight them or drag them and throw them onto our desktop. It's as easy as that. You've left your whole site open. So that little bit of access code, what that does is you just create a little HTTP access file and you stick that into that, and it will prevent people browsing your directories. Okay. If you scroll down a bit, Sue. Just take disable hot linking up to the top of the screen there. Who knows what hot linking is? Can you give me a 1 if you do and 2 if you don't? Okay. That's where people essentially link to, if you've got images or videos on your site, on your server, what some people might do is they might link directly to the source, which is your server, and they'll stream your content or pull your images directly off your box, which eats up your bandwidth. So if you're on boxes that have got allowances with X amount of bandwidth and your site image becomes viral or popular, you'll very quickly see that bandwidth getting eaten up. So that creates an IT debt. So this little bit of code here essentially prevents that. So if it's not from your domain and any image that gets called will just get a 404 error. It blocks it. Okay. Right, so the next one is protect WP content directory. Okay, so WordPress holds all your media files where there's an asset and you want search engines to basically crawl. But the WP content is where you place your themes, your plugins, and everything else. So what we do is we create a separate HTTP access file and we push it into the actual root of the WP content folder. And if you copy that bit of code there in the HTTP access file, what it essentially does, guys, is it allows the XML, the CSS, the JPEGs, the PNGs, and the GIFs and the JS files to execute, but it basically prevents everything else from being accessed. Okay, so what that means is when your page is called and these elements or the media types get pulled, they will load with no problem, but people will not be able to snoop into your directory. So that's another way of blocking people who are trying to see what you're using and all that kind of stuff.
Kevin asked a great question. Does that prevent Google image search also?
No, because you're allowing your images to basically go out.
Yeah.
Are you referring to the image blocking, the hot linking, or are you referring to the WP config? Hot
Oh,
linking.
the hot linking.
Yeah, see, Kevin, they're linking to your site, okay? But I don't mind if Google shows my images. They actually do me a benefit because when people click on an image, it takes them to my site.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Mike was asking, is there any reason for keeping the WP content to be named W content? Good question, Mike. I typically don't like messing around with the file structures of WordPress, especially the ones that sit within the core, because if they make updates or changes to the code and they specifically call that folder, or if a plugin specifically calls that folder, you'll get an error on your site. So I typically just leave the things alone. It depends on the people who actually code the plugins and the themes. So I don't know what happens in WordPress that might be reliant on that actual thing. So I personally leave it alone. Okay. And then htaccess itself, we want to lock down all our htaccess files, and with that last bit of code, we can stop people from actually getting in there and injecting 301 redirects. That's happened to Sarah's site, her makeup artist site, and she got a phone call from one of her clients, and she said that she was being redirected to a Viagra site. So as they hit the domain, it took them straight through, and the guys did it straight through the htaccess. Somehow they got permission to it, and they injected a whole series of 301s. There was like 50 redirects randomly executed. So it happens to anybody, but this is how we start protecting ourselves, and we start locking ourselves down. Now, when you're thinking about this as you're building out your network, when you're dealing not with just one site, but you maybe got 10, 15, maybe even up to 20 sites, depending on how big your WR1 is, because the bigger your WR1 gets, the bigger your network expands, okay, because it's exponential. So as we're building these nodes and these websites and we're popping them into the network, we want to lock them down as much as we possibly can. So this prevents us getting knocked as hard as anybody else. Okay, so that's why I put that htaccess section into this part of the course with the footprints, was just to sort of explain to you guys how easy it is to actually break in. In certification, I did it in like a few minutes. We had someone's database. It was as easy as that, just with a query. I showed the guys some scary stuff. But these little things we're showing you now, they're not little, but they do make your whole network a lot more stable. Because you don't want to be firefighting, guys. You want to build your business, and you want to have your network work and pay for itself. And if you're constantly having to fix up people messing with your sites, then it eats up a lot of your time, and it actually prevents you from moving forward in your business because you're firefighting and you're not actually being productive. So this is why when you build each W2 or W3 out, lock it down, and if you have to, you can come back and always open it up, do the changes, lock it down again. It's standard IT practice. You must always think security as your utmost first line of defense when you start building out your networks. The less people can get to you, the better. Okay. So what we've done, if you scroll a bit down here, guys, I've sort of given like a list that is sort of recommended.
So let me inject something then before you move on.
Sure. Okay.
There's a new kid on the block called Nginx, and it actually gets rid of Apache. So .htaccess is all a function of a particular kind of web service called Apache on Unix. For you guys that aren't, give me a 1 if you guys consider yourself tech savvy, and a 2 if you're more, if you're less, if you don't consider yourself tech savvy. Let's put it that way.
That's actually a good question.
Mike. All right. Okay, so we're about 50-50 in this group. So, interesting. So let me ask another question. Yeah, Nginx, I do really like it, but it's a bit of a learning curve for me. Um, Kelly's switching everything over to Nginx, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. It is faster, it's more secure, it doesn't have as many issues. So if you're on a server that's running Nginx and not Apache, you can just ignore the whole htaccess thing. So my next question would be, how many of you guys feel comfortable actually editing your .htaccess, and do you want us to get into stuff like that in this course, since it is supposed to be a hands-on, roll up your sleeves kind of course? Give me a 1 if you want us to get into it, and a 2 if you think it would be boring and useless. You're right. All right,
Yeah,
so we'll do that.
I would suggest, yeah, Sue, I would also vote for, even if there's non-tech people, because I consider myself the non-techie person in our organization.
Right.
Believe it or not, for those of you listening, I'm not the technical. I'm the least technical. That being said, being exposed to these things are kind of essential. Like, I wouldn't want you to move forward. However, one thing that comes up, Sue, is like, I know that 2 people on this call have technical people in their office. So
right.
I believe what our policy on having other staff members attend these webinars was it's okay if it's in their office, right? Was that the agreement?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you guys feel the need to, like Mike Hayden obviously is pretty technical, he codes and everything, and I know Brian is a former programmer, but some of you are not. So if you have someone in staff or someone that you need to bring or that you need to be here, please just let us know, let Matt know, let Sue, what's going on, and we're happy to help you because we're here to make sure that you guys do get protected. There has been some exploits in the past that can bring down your entire network. So I just really want you to at least be exposed to that.
And the other thing that we can do is move those technical aspects to the end of the webinar so that the guys that are comfortable with it.
That's a good point. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Okay.
All right. So we'll slowly forward down with the rest of the
okay.
warnings on the screen and then come back. All right. So
the last thing I wanted to say there was the reason why I say this, the security stuff, guys, was because the SASE site got hit the other day through the rev slider, and they tried to take control of the whole box. I could see through all the queries the bot was making, was looking for the database access, but there was a war where my server was blocking it all the time. So the cost for me to get the site back and up and running was about 4 hours of my time, just to get the backups all put back up and restoring all the stuff that they had done and then locking things down further. So this is why it's important, guys. If you don't lock things down and you don't do your backups, you will lose days because your site might get damaged, especially if they get into the database and you have to actually purge that whole thing. That's the last point I wanted to make there, sir.
Yeah, do you guys want us to walk through hardening WordPress with you too? Give me a 1 if you'd like to see that, and a 2 if not.
Yeah, they should see it.
Very important technique there.
They don't have a choice. remember the time?
Change to your chairs and your eyes.
Well, remember that time that I didn't lock it down in that one instance where you said I absolutely had in that one instance?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now everybody must sit through it.
Right.
Guys, I've actually there are certain situations and certain types of blogs where you absolutely must do it. There's been times that I did not do it when Sue told me to do it, and I regretted it. That's worth getting exposure to.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about some of these do's and do nots. I think this list is mostly don't. So Ian, you want to take this from the perspective.
Sue, Brian is saying maybe Matt should try to hack everybody's site when we're done.
I don't want to go to that point.
No, you don't want
to.
You probably could.
They weren't happy with me.
Yeah.
That might be something that we do over drinks at CERT, Brian.
Yeah, that's true, though.
So, again, you want to think about this from the perspective of you're one person in your WR2 ring, and you're going to be setting up a blog and some social media sites about this concept that you're really passionate about. So why would you get together with 6 other people that you don't know and all chip in to buy one account at a hosting company? Right? So You don't
What?
want to have everything in your W02 ring.
What?
You can't have everything in one and one.
You can't have everything in one and one. So,
What?
so here's the way that I think about it personally, because I know that there are so many other people in this group that are near and dear to my heart in terms of market domination and world domination, right? So if you've got multiple markets you're going after, you can use a single hosting account for different marketing projects. But the one thing that I will warn you about, this is where not doing everything myself comes back to really bite me in the ass. So I had a blog that was pointed to a money site that somebody else and I were going in half and half on. And he had a network pointed to the money site. And his network got found out. And when his network got found out, everything pointed to that money site that looked like it was the least little bit unnatural got pinged. So my one blog that was pointed to that money site,
Oh, that pissed me
it
off.
followed back to that blog. It hit everything else on that server, which of course was pointing to other money sites, and it took out a whole pod, right?
Hashtag boom.
Boom.
So,
Hashtag WTF.
Right.
You lose 300 sites. It's not a joke.
yeah, fortunately it wasn't 300, it was only about a dozen, but the point, the lesson from that is consider carefully what you want to firewall from other aspects of your network. Yeah, pound wipeout. That's a good one. Wipe out! All right, so hosting company, that's my concept for hosting companies. And SEO hosting companies is a concept that you don't want to get Kevin Pauly started on. He will wax eloquent for a long time about how that's just setting you up to fail. And the last couple of, what's it been, the last 6 months or so, they've been hitting networks on hosting companies pretty hard. Like that's just one of the flags that they look for. So it doesn't take too many other flags if you're on something that's touted as SEO hosting for them to just take all your sites down.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because remember, guys, every domain you have is linked to an IP address, and that IP address, they just have to. If you got a shared hosting, you might have 5 sites in the same IP, and they just find you an instance. You got to start understanding how the network topology works and how the things are all connected, and then you'll start realizing why we're saying don't do it.
Exactly.
Don't get us started. And especially don't get Kevin Pauly started.
So domain registration, like that's just a really interesting thing. It's not been something that I have been, that I've actually done personally. I've got, oh, well, that's not true. I do have 3 or 4 different, if I stop and think about it, I do have 3 or 4 different domain registrars that I use. And every twice in a while we start a new project, and for one reason or another we'll go with a completely different registrar. But the other thing that's kind of cool is because the team of us tend to work on a project, and we will oftentimes each of us bring our own domains, that we just kind of naturally get a diversification in there. So, yeah, I don't know. I think, oh, cloak hosting, don't get me started, don't go there.
We know the owners of Cloak Hosting, and although he's a wonderful guy, I would recommend not using it.
Yeah.
He's also the creator of Social Adder, by the way, for those of you who don't know that same guy.
Yeah. Also, another thing I look at the domain registers is the emails you use. So that's what I wanted to show the guys here, was just that if you click on an image to magnify it, if you use the same email address, right, you can do a reverse DNS on that actual email address, and you can identify all the domains connected to that person's actual one email. So I just did Moz, for example, and we ended up just finding 500 domains, just by 500 domains that connected to email domains at moz.com. So that was the footprint.
Okay.
And it's associated with 918 other domains. So with your domains, change your email addresses. One of my colleagues that I know, Sue, you and Russ' name as well. He basically lost up to like 1,500 domains purely because of one of those mistakes. Not the total amount, was because the email address knocked out probably a third of his whole network because the guys kept on using the same one.
Yeah.
Because you got the email, you got the domains, you got the IP addresses, then you can connect up and you can see everything. And from the IP addresses, you can look at what else is on his IPs and what's related. Everything's connected when you look at it from this way.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I would say about that.
Oh, wait a second. Kevin McCarthy said, so C-class hosting no longer works. I don't think that's what we just said. Is it?
No,
No.
what I'm saying is the email address you use when you're running a domain.
Kevin, I don't know how you
do
do that conclusion. Yeah, that's not what we're saying.
C classes do still work because they're far back in the IP range. It's your D class, and it's the ones in the end that give you away.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, consecutive IPs will give you away too. So if you go into like, we just did that. We got OVH.
Yeah. Show us what you're talking about, Sue, because this is something that a lot of people don't know. If you could. No, you don't want to get into it?
No, I'm just trying to think of where I could, like, unless I do it.
Oh, no, we can't show our IPs, yeah. Well, maybe just, like, give an example of...
Yeah, so let's say that you've got 192.178.1.1, and then you've got 192.178.1.2, and so on, right? .3, .4, .5,
Right.
.6. Like, if you go into hosting, and any hosting, and you ask them for, like, 6 IP addresses, they'll give them to you in a block like that where they're consecutive.
Yes.
So that also becomes a footprint. So what I tend to do when I get consecutive IP addresses is that I'll use each one of those for a different
ring
market as well, a different ring, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really key point that all you guys can understand is there's a reason that we have the web, that Sue created the web ring layer, and as we all begin to work on it, is if you have things like that, you can know not to put them all. Like I wouldn't do 5 consecutive addresses for all pin bids, right, on the same network. She would not want me to do that. Although I have done that, much to her dismay. She would not want me to do that. But you guys get my point. Yeah.
So the other thing that I want to say is, I mean, obviously when you sign up for a domain, you can get the protection so that your name and your email address aren't just hanging out there, but now that is only going to protect you from your competitors, right? Google's got the ability to be able to go around that protective layer and ask who really owns a domain. So so just know that that's not as foolproof as you might want it to be.
Gotcha.
But it's definitely a step in the right direction because 9 times out of 10 it's your competitors that turn you in.
Yes.
Put up the flag, and then Google looks harder.
Now, as you guys have more questions that come in around this, I just wanted to know that they're good. Write them down, and we'll address them. Give me a 1 if you guys have the general understanding of just the basics there, if you learned something there. Okay, and 2 if you're still baffled and you just created more questions and you're just more confused. I just want to give a general sense of the language that we're using. This is just a language check. Okay, wow, everybody's mostly keeping up. That's great. Good job, Welton. I'm glad. And you don't have to have the detail. You don't have to be like a brainiac server-side expert here. We just want to give you the general ballpark. Because actually, indirectly, if you start listening to Sue and Matt enough, a lot of the stuff that's going on with, like, I don't know, PBNs, private blog networks, start to make sense, and the risks. As you go deeper in, you'll begin to see what's really going on there. Good job. Okay, thanks, Sue.
Okay. Brian asks, you actually register with all unique emails. I rely on the WHOIS protection. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Read the full question, guys. So
no, what I was saying, I was just, sorry.
Read Brian's full question.
So you actually register with all the unique emails for anything outside your brand and don't rely on WHOIS protection since G can get the info correct. Yes.
If you want to be completely paranoid, yes. I haven't had Google Dig. I haven't ever had any of my networks fall for reasons of my own stuff. Yeah. So I haven't personally been that paranoid. However, as you create these personas in the WR2 layer, each one of them has their own Gmail account. They got their own Google account.
Yes.
So you could register with that Gmail account.
Yeah, which is what I do. I absolutely do that.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's remember, it's your competitors who will turn you in. Google hasn't got the time to sit and watch and run after the type of networks we're building. They're not bothered. But when when you start taking business away from other people, then they'll start saying you're spamming and they're trying to deflate what you're doing.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. Yeah, looking at all these types of things with negative SEO. It's just kind of a related tangent. I watched a Matt Cutts video. There's a PinVid site we have generating 4,000 pages a day, and a lot of them are Matt Cutts talks. So I ran into one. One of them was on negative SEO, and he was kind of addressing what Matt was just saying. And he was like, he doesn't always stammer in his talks, but he was kind of stammering on the SEO, on the negative SEO talk. It was kind of interesting. And he was saying, like, well, you don't have to, if you're a mom and pop shop, you don't ever have to worry about your competitors turning you in or negative black hatting you or anything like that. And I was just going, I don't think that's true.
That's so not true. I wish it were. I wanted to go back to something that I actually covered in the last Director's Cut webinar. And it's something that we talk about SERP, but I think it's particularly important at this juncture. One of the things that, well, if you look at what Google's actually trying to do, right, they're trying to give you quality SERPs results, because if they give you quality SERPs results, you'll use their search engine. And if you use their search engine, you're going to be more inclined to click on their ads than you would say you weren't using their search engine. So if people are using their search engine and people are clicking on their ads, then Google is making money and Google and their investors are happy, right? So this is their whole impetus, obviously, for trying to get junk sites out of the top of the SERPs, so or out of the index altogether. So the other thing that you want to keep in mind as you're building your sites is you want to make sites that are aesthetically pleasing and that actually give value. And there's a lot of different ways that you can give value, and I've had several people say, well, how can you even pretend to give value on sites that have that automatically create their content?
Totally can.
And yeah, you totally can, because what we're doing is we've got themes, right? This whole thing starts from the themes of your money site, and so you've got this keyword DNA that we take and use, and that creates a site that, even though it's auto-gendered, like what Russ was just saying, there's a whole bunch of Matt Cutts videos on this one PinVid site, and that's because of the theme, right? So you hit there and you're like, oh wow, this is great. Somebody that's looking for information about a particular topic.
I was watching my own videos.
Right? I've been spending time on my own WRT sites. It's yeah, so.
Yeah, totally.
I saw a couple questions come through. Okay. So so you want to think about that as you're creating everything else. You're going to infuse it with thematic relevance, and if you just take a little bit of time to set it up so that it's, and this is largely in the keywords that you choose, and we'll get into EKDNA a little bit in this course and even more in certification. But if you think carefully about the keywords that you choose, and Russ talks about interesting keywords in his PinVid course, maybe we can get him to talk about that a little bit too next week.
And we have a new definition going into our wiki called weird tail keywords.
I love it. That's awesome. And then the content that you write on your silo landing pages, because that's your static content, and those are kind of like the flagship pages for your site. And those pages oftentimes get ranked. So you want to think carefully about that content. Like, don't just, I know it's like maybe a half a dozen pages a site, and maybe you got 10 sites, and so you look at that and you're like, wow, that's 60 pages of written content. How fast and cheap can I get this done? But if you don't think about it like that, but you think about, hey, well, this is content that's really going to drive traffic to my money site, it is as important as the content that's on your money site. So then you're putting together quality websites, and it's not something that Google's going to look at. It's going to more than just pass the eye exam of somebody actually physically looking at the site, right? They're going to look at it and possibly get sucked in for a few minutes, right? Which is what you really want to have happen. Okay, soapbox off. Back to what it was we were talking about. Analytics. Do you want to go into that a little bit, Matt? Clearly, I talked for too long.
Okay.
Oh, we're watching videos. Sorry.
Yeah, analytics guys.
It
What's your
works.
Okay, analytics, right. Your tracking ID, you want to have separate analytics, okay, from your WR1 compared to WR2 and W3, and that's why we recommend using pwiki.org. I've looked at a few others, but pwiki seems to be the nicest one. It's free as well, and you can utilize that to track what's going on in your WR2s and your WR3s. It's a very important thing because you don't want Google to know what's going on those sites. It's none of their business. You want them to know everything about your WR1 and the people involved there, but in the WR2s, you don't really want to have them involved. They're involved enough with Gmail, okay? That's as much as you want to give them. Now, if you use the analytics code at the bottom of the page, like Sue's got open here, you'll see that little UA on the second line, 1, 2, 3, it's on line 230. It's UA-75, blah, blah, blah. That's the code that you can find people's sites with as well, okay?
This is like your user ID, right? So like you can find everybody that's set up underneath, or all the sites that are set up under that one user ID really easily. And it just uncovers the network like nobody's business. Your competitors can turn you in really quickly. And even more to the point, I don't actually know whether Google or not goes and sorts stuff out. I'm sure that if there were a couple of other flags, like if you were on SEO hosting, like they would probably start to check a few things like that too. If I were Google, I always come at it from the perspective of, okay, me being a programmer, how would I most quickly and easily find a network? So there would be a cluster of things that I would look for, right? And so if it tripped any one of maybe 3 or 4 flags that were really easy to find, and then I would dig deeper and see if there were other things going on. And so this is one of those things that I would check to see if there was something else going on. And now that's just one example on Google that's really easy to find, but it's the same kind of concept of, actually, I haven't looked at PWIC's tracking codes.
Very, very nice. It's very nice.
So if you have, because you can install PWIC on a server, right?
Yeah, it's self-hosted, and they've made WordPress plugins as things we can plug in as well. So the setup is pretty easy. You can just plug in the WordPress plugin into your site, and PWiki hooks up with it, bang. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that.
Okay, great, because my initial question mark there would be, if I have one server set up and I'm hosting all my WR2 sites on it, is it going to give me codes that are different enough that it's not going to point to it all being one thing?
Yeah, PWiki is almost like Google Analytics. It's it's probably the closest looking one. And it's simpler though. It's not as complicated as Google Analytics is. You have to learn a whole new language just to use Google Analytics because they come out from a very highbrow level when they label everything, whereas PWiki has made it a lot simpler.
Right. But you...
Sorry, Sue?
You avoided my question, so I'm not sure if... Maybe we just aren't that far yet. Maybe we need to install it and take a look.
No, I've got it set up. It's self-hosted, and when you set it up, you set up a site like you do in Google Analytics, and it gives you its own unique JavaScript code.
Okay, and so it's completely unique from one site to the next site.
I need to confirm that, but I think it is. I'd say cool. Make the answer yes 70%. I've got to just double check and confirm.
All right. By the time we get around to this, guys, we'll have them all checked and make sure, and we will drop anything off this list that doesn't pass the test.
Clicky, there's a question about Clicky. Is it better than Clicky? Yes and no. They're similar, but you got to pay just to access the stuff you get for free in PWiki. You got to pay $10, and that's the starting point. So I don't like it when companies restrict analytics and start getting too iffy with it. I want to know the whole story in the simplest way possible, so I can make better decisions. So I'll put Clicky in there because I know it's very popular, and then Open Web Analytics is also very popular. And it's got the seamless plugin as well with WordPress. Cool. And it's also free. So it depends on how you like it, but the three are pretty nice. But I'll have them all set up for you guys, and we'll actually just jump in and have a look. I'll set up some beta ones we can just go plug in, so you guys can have a look yourselves.
Excellent. All right. So obviously you don't want to use Google Webmaster Tools or Google Analytics on WR2s or WR3s. And this brings me to a point of pre-owned domains. Now, if you got a pre-owned domain, It's a little bit like a used car, right? And as soon as the used car starts making a funky noise, you got to take it into the mechanic. But when you take it into the Webmaster Tools mechanic, then Google knows that you own the site unless you jump through a hoop or two. So I don't ever bother with pre-owned domains personally. I mean, we've gone down that path a little bit in the last couple of years, 18 months maybe, and I've always just kind of regretted it. It's easy enough to get domain authority and page authority on your sites without having to resort to pre-owned domains and then sit there and wonder about whether or not Google's decided that your site's not all that. Do you want to talk about social media, Matt?
And they're pricey.
They can be.
Yeah, it all sort of comes back to, they can be, well, I was sort of sticking to the line that you took earlier where each site's got its unique personality, and they cover a series of sites potentially. That's why I said that. You don't have your money sites, your WR1 money sites, social stuff all over the WR2s or WR3s. So your branded WR1 is the open public voice. The other ones are the pseudo voices, almost, if you could put it like that. That's
yeah, so we're going to run the RSS feeds into the WR2s and WR3 sites, but you don't want to run the content that comes out of that gets created by your WR2 and WR3 sites. You don't want to ever run those into your social media for your WR1 sites. So you want to keep those discrete.
Yes.
Excellent.
Cool.
All right.
Do you want me to carry on, or?
Mix-up themes, we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Go for the author, start there.
Yeah, basically, this comes back to our themes. With the author, consider using a different author on some of your sites. Just mix it up. Some will have admin, some will have a person's name. Keep it slightly different so it's not all static. That's what I'm sort of coming from. And when you start using the author names, you can connect them to people that are associated with the WR2S profiles. And we can keep everything nice and tidy. So there's a specific set of content that gets written by a specific type of author that's connected to a specific type of social profile. And that makes the thing more realistic as well.
Yeah. So, oh, this was a good one. You know, you brought this up and I hadn't considered it. I don't actually have about us privacy and terms of services on most of my WR2 sites. Although, obviously, if you're going to run Google AdWords or something like that, then you need it, and it's becoming more and more.
I have a big banner that says, "Steal these videos." Steal all my shit.
And that's on your money site, too.
Yeah, yeah, that too. Syndicate.
When I put that idea in, I always come from a lead generation point of view. So when I build my WR1, I look at the market life cycle, I look at the characters in that story, and I look at what are the typical products that they can buy. And then anything else that I can sell them, or but can indirectly sell them now, I would then create a WR2, which would be that pseudo-branded site, which I generate leads for them, and I'd own the branding, and I can redirect traffic. So that's what I was sort of saying that there. Now, obviously, to make those sites logistic, depending on certain industries, sometimes you have to have your legal information on the actual site by law. So depending on what you need to do, just be very clear on what the requirements are. So if you have got a specific type of license, rather bring that WR2 into your WR1 ring to keep it close to the brand if you have to put licenses. If you don't, then you can carry on as per usual, what we've been discussing. But it's a business decision you've got to make because you have to look at the legalities of what you're up against in different types of markets. So in the finance industry, you have to have like sort of 2 or 3 specific licenses in the UK to trade in those industries. And if you don't have them on your site, then you get a letter from Her Majesty saying you're going to get a year in jail for operating in an industry that you don't have permits for. Take the site down.
Right.
And you can only put the site back up once you've got the paperwork, and sometimes they take 9 months to answer you. So all that ranking, all that stuff you built up, boom, it's gone because it's happened to us. It's happened to us in the UK with the one guy. It took us 9 months just to get the right paperwork sorted out and authorized to put it back up online again. So all our work was lost that we had built up, all that momentum. It just goes offline like that, bang, and you lose those rankings, you lose everything. So that's why I say don't use the same information, but look at this thing carefully and think your story through. So that's why you start with W1 and you think the story through to the end. And then you can look at this market effectively and you can make better business decisions. And you can build a more cost-effective network.
Exactly.
Excellent.
So then you talk about don't use the same phone number, contact, and emails on the WR2 and 3 sites. To be honest, I don't tend to have any of that information on, I might have the email, I might have the Google account email for that particular persona on the site, but I don't tend to have addresses and phone numbers on them.
No, we're starting to get into phone numbers that are independently created, right?
Yeah.
I actually haven't talked to you about whether you want me to put those on the Google Plus account tied to the profile, tied to the, I know we're not supposed to talk about all that stuff here. It's only certification, but that's something we should, because we have unique phone numbers.
At this point, right.
It is kind of nice to see it on there, though, like, you know, if a Google Plus, if the phone number's there, you know, it just looks better, but I guess you could use any phone number, really.
Yeah.
Fake phone number.
Well, I don't know. No, I don't think, you know, we've actually had people try to call our,
on the Twitter.
some of our WR2 personas. So I'm tempted to, like, don't put a phone number there. Put an email address and then do an auto forward on the email address so that it comes to something that somebody monitors from time to time, and just call it a day.
Yeah, when we were first starting this model, I think it was 2011. It was a long time ago, actually, like so far back. But shall I share? Yeah, why not? You know, you try stuff. We're always innovating, and we were just getting the system down, and Sue and I were just talking about the Twitter shredder. So we had something like 100 Twitter accounts that were all posting, and I wasn't really thinking through the whole process, and I put our WR1 phone number on some WR2 Twitter accounts that were supposed to represent, you know, sales agents, this and that. And bottom line is that we were getting phone calls from various locations around the world asking for that particular persona who was not real for our company. So we very quickly realized that that's actually part of how the web burn system got developed. It's like, that's not good, right? You got to be very straightforward.
We need to put more thought into this.
Yeah. Sue was like, okay, so it's working. Let's go ahead and make sure that they're calling real people. So again, that's an inside scoop we normally don't share, but since you're almost all advisors here, I just wanted to share, like, that's how we learn, by doing it, you know, making a couple.
Yeah, guys, think your business model through, because it's as you get caught with your pants down.
I was like, she's not here right now. Can I help you?
All right.
Pretend you're a call center and say, hi there, how can I help you? That agent's not available at the moment.
Let me redirect your call. Russ.
Whoops.
All right. So let me talk for a minute about logos and graphics. So I spoke initially and kind of generally about the kinds of graphics. And I have to say, particularly like when you get an outsourcing team rocking and rolling on these, it's like it just seems like a really good idea to, you know, it saves time, right, to reuse a graphic here or there, even if you make mods to it. But so like the last network that we built, the person that we built the network for, they only had a couple of banners. And really nice, really pretty, really great banners. And so I gave them to our outsourcing team, and I'm thinking placeholders because there were only 2 banners and it went across, I don't know, 35 sites. But the truth of the matter is, don't ever, when you're talking about a pretty good sized project, don't ever think that you're going to come back and fix something, right? Do it right the first time up as much as possible, because otherwise it just turns into an absolute nightmare. So, and then the other thing that you want to do is think about using shortcode UI a lot so that you can go back in and change things if it's really wrong. So, so bottom line is, all 35 sites had exactly the same sidebar banner on every single page that was being auto-gen, so you've got like literally millions and millions and millions of pages out there in the internet land.
Whoops.
And it just
looks
so obvious. I mean, that and a couple of other things that we didn't change up right in the beginning, and you just go from site to site, and it's just like, well, these are so obviously one network, it's not even funny. So,
yeah.
Lessons learned.
Yeah, you try stuff. We
right?
did it. We actually did it, so you guys don't have to.
Exactly. Until you
we
don't
fixed it.
do this.
Damn it. That's not as bad as publishing like 500,000 pages with like the follow links to all of our sites too that I did that time.
Yeah.
It was-
I got it now.
But all I know is I didn't hear her coming. I just felt the slap on the side of my head.
Really long.
Okay. Just so you guys know, like at School of Hard Knocks, that's how you learn. We don't wait for perfection. We experiment, and then we create it.
Oh, nice. WPBulkEditor.com, huh? I'll have to check that out. Thanks, Kevin.
Oh yeah, I saw
So,
that.
Matt, do
That's
you want to
cool.
pick the next couple?
I've seen that, Kevin.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the next one I got there, guys, is basically just mix up your TLDs, get .coms, .orgs, .nets, just mix them up a little bit. The next one is always use Read's privacy. I put it in there just as another layer of security. Okay, but we've spoken about that. It does not cover you. Okay, Google sits behind that firewall, so they're actually looking from the inside out toward us. So we're not really cloaking ourselves too much with that. So me, I personally don't use it. I just changed my email addresses up. Okay, and don't register all your domains in the same day of the week, all at the same time for one project. Just buy your domains up as you need them. So as you set up a site, get the next one, buy the domain. Get the next one, buy the domain, or buy 2 or 3 for like a node. But don't go buy 40 domains straight away, bang, for that one site.
That's a really good point.
So build your, another point is with the thing is when you're buying your domains, guys, as we speak more about the EKDNA and we start playing with TRKT and we start using Jimmy's domain filter that he's created, as we go through the nodes, we can actually start applying that filter and make better decisions when we actually buy that domain. So as the conversation follows the thread out, then those domains will sort of be tangent or related to that idea as we go further out. So we don't have to play with the whole exact match type of domain name. We can just get better domains that work better with the site designs when we're actually working with the EKDNA.
Cool.
Okay, and then yeah, that's it all. That's all of it. Yeah, make sure your servers that you get hosting on mixed locations. Okay, so different data centers, different locales. Just get hosting from different places. What's your number, Stu? This is a question I've always wondered about. Typically, my number is if I have a specific server, I won't put more than 5 sites on that actual server, up to 10 sites, depending on the IP ranges. But then I'll get a hosting server somewhere else, a VPS, and I'll stick another node somewhere else. Should we cover that here as well at this point? No.
Yeah, absolutely we can. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, and it's, so, like, I'm just always doing testing, right? So I've got hosting in probably 6 or 7 different hosting companies, and there'll be, at any one point in time, 2 that I really hate, and eventually I'll drop them and pick up somebody else. So part of that is that I'm just testing different hosting companies, because that's got to be one of the most common questions we get asked is, who's a good hosting company? And I will say this, there's some really bad ones, and then everybody else is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I go pick up, like, not the absolute cheapest hosting, but maybe like 10 to 15 bucks a month. I don't spend a lot, and I'll have 2 or 3 sites, maybe 4 or 5 sites. Like, it's just like luck of the draw. So I've got spreadsheets where I keep track of everything, and I keep track of it from 2 different perspectives. One is, on this hosting company, I've got these 5 sites, and the other one is, in this particular market for this particular project, these are all the sites, and this is who the hosting company is, and then users and passwords, right? So, so that way I've got it. So, like, if a hosting company goes down, if I lose a server for whatever reason, and I've lost entire servers where it's just like,
It crashes.
yeah, it crashes, and if I don't have backups, I'm completely screwed with those sites and got to start over again. So I like to know when a server goes down, the sites that are effective without having to scroll through all of my other spreadsheets for each individual market and figure out what's going on. So so that's how I typically do it, and yeah. So like, here's the thing: when we do a big network, that's how we we grow networks for our own stuff. It's a little bit here, it's a little bit there. We're trying out something over here. Oh, here's a new plugin. Let's install it over here. Or, I want to try this hosting. Like, let's get an account over there. So it's all very, it's a lot more natural and homegrown. Typically, when we have an actual project that we're going to actually, it's like, okay, let's dominate the candy market. Then we've been going out and getting larger hosting and just trying to do it in a batch mode, and it does leave a footprint. I wouldn't probably do it that way again. So,
Yeah.
yeah, especially since they started cracking down, I think it was in November, on more on networks like that, I would definitely diversify it. And so I would probably, like, I've tried this thing. It's kind of like how a car is made, right? Where you've got an assembly line and everything just kind of goes through the assembly line, and at the end you come out with 35 websites completely made for your WR2 ring. And that, well, it's probably more efficient in terms of time. It's not as cool in terms of a fingerprint. So I think that the next time that we do a really big project,
Don't get me
I want to
started.
try it. I want to try it a different way, where we take a single site and everybody just does their thing on that site, and we kind of like got the persona like taped to
Yeah.
the wall so that we know what it is that it's
Yeah,
about.
it's a little tricky. I mean, Sue and I have talked a lot about this. She comes from the, like in the lean startup, Eric Race talks really about the envelope experiment. And it's tricky. Like there's not, the general consensus for agile development is it absolutely is not more efficient to do machine line factory when all things are taken into account. Now, people will argue that, obviously. But one of the things I've discovered is when there are still ways to get that machine line approach, but still create the uniqueness of the site. I mean, some of the advantages I discovered, like just in the PinVid thing, is I would do the things that I do, and I would start at the top of the site and go down and finish them one at a time, which is really, one of the things they talk about in agile development, lean startup. But it's not that you can't do it across laterally. It's just that you got to know when you should and shouldn't make that switch. And so it was kind of weird when, we started trying to machine line the PinVids, and they actually did not have the same success as my original models. And once we got into there, we really realized that was the process map, more or less. There's things that I was leaving out. And then there is the unique, you can still assign the unique, what do you call it, the fluff or the soft touch, Sue? What would you call it, the soft touch, like the design? Sometimes there's those, yeah, well, it's not just only the look and feel. It's not exactly, it's a combination of several things, the look and feel being one of them. It's the configuration, it's the combination of silos, it's the unique aspect of it. And, that too can, what's that?
Mindset, maybe?
There is a bit of a mindset issue, and I think the mindset that was lacking when you try to machine line large amounts, say 100 or 200 PinVid sites, only that where that happens is really knowing that it's organized around a persona and not around a factory line.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the issue that's lost, and that's up to you guys and to us. And again, we get into this more at certification. We're really going to go deep into this. It's not as much on this course, but whether whatever you consider to be the profile and persona, whatever path you take, once you realize that it's organized around that, if you build the site as if it's organized around an organization or a human being rather than an organization creating a bunch of sites, it does change inevitably, for the most part, the overall impact of the site, whether it's automated or not.
Well said. That's that's perfect.
It's very strange. It's like the axiom or the core that your organizing principle, if you will, of that design. When you understand that organizing principle is really from a person to a person, whether that person or not is real, ultimately is not necessary. So that's where things become very strange.
Yeah. So yeah, they're interesting concepts. Oh, it was Welton's last question. When you sign up for a new hosting account, do you use the company name or the personal name? And I think if we took it from this person-by-person stance, then it makes it really easy to sign up for that person.
Yeah.
I think what we teach in Tech 1 is we always build the sites from the market personalities perspective.
Yeah,
so
but
think from that perspective, all the way back to the infrastructure, that idea, that person owns the email account, he owns the server, he owns everything all the way down.
Yeah, and I will admit that in the early prototypes, like generally speaking, we tend to own entire servers, Welton, in which case, the IP addresses and everything else is pretty much, we can diversify across that. But yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, you just have to ask yourself, in terms of IT debt and what you're prepared to invest, how much money you have for a project, how deep you really want to go. And then you have, in other words, what can you afford to ignore? And if you ask Sue and Matt what you can afford to ignore, technically they'll tell you, well, nothing. You want it to be sustainable. So, everybody has a different budget, and every project has different meaning, and there's some variations. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what are the risks if I ignore this security issue here? What are the chances or the likelihood of me getting exposed? And there's variables there. There really are, and you have to look at each case has to be slightly very different.
And the other thing that I'll say is that if you don't start with the end in mind, like let's say that you started right now, you've got PBNs and they all point to a money site, and you realize that that's kind of a concept whose days are numbered, and so you want to do something else. The way that I would approach that is to come in with some WRT sites that are like what we teach here, and then when you're done, when those sites have got domain authority and it's helping to push the rankings of your site, you can just slowly go in and disavow your other PBNs. You don't want to go in and remove those links, because removing those links kind of points to something, and you can have a negative link velocity on your site, which can do damage. So if you've put yourself in a position where, I don't know, you have a pinned site that's got 5,432 do follow inbound links to your money site, then you just disavow the domain and move forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify something here, because Brian is asking a question. I personally am not saying, I'm going to let Sue and Matt speak specifically to this. I don't want you guys at all to thinking that I'm telling you come up with a fake identity and a fake bank account and sign up for fake hosting. I'm never saying that. Okay, because Brian was saying hosting get weird with authenticating real person that's tied to the billing method. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not talking about creating a fake Russell and going out and signing up with, although there are industries like gambling and casino and where they're using pretty hardcore backlinking systems from Russia and and all these things where you got to do that. I'm not suggesting that you have to do that at this level. I'm just saying that as much as you can separate out your buckets, do that.
The easy way to sort of approach that whole challenge, guys, or simple way of saying is essentially you're an agency, and each site you're building is for a client.
Exactly.
The client is an email address.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what you say to anybody. It's as simple as that. Right, this is my client, I'm building his website, these are his details. Thank you very much. We're paying for the hosting, here's our business, because that's your development company, it's Leo, you got your WR1 site for it, bang, and that's the job done, it's all legit.
But on a weird note, just because I'm weird and you guys like that, recently the inventor of the internet, this whole thing Kevin talks about, and we put a post on our blog recently. He's actually suggesting, what's the guy, the web?
Tim Berners-Lee.
Tim Berners-Lee recently, and I have the video on Russell Speaks on Network Empire News. I can drop it here for you. He actually says within the next 5 years, artificial intelligence will be able to create an identity, have a separate bank account, buy its own hosting company, or buy its own hosting account, generate its own set of records. He is literally saying,
employ directors for the
appoint directors, create joint venture partnerships, fire people because they're going to know, right? It'll know the odds of their background. And it's kind of interesting, just to be weird for a second, that eventually probably you will be able to do all of this through artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Yes, it's like a science fiction movie. It's crazy.
Exactly. All right, so that was the end of that page. Let's move over to TLK2 really quickly for a few minutes, and then we can wrap back around to some of the more technical aspects. So let's say that you've got your siloed structure, or you've got your WR1 site, whether or not it's siloed is fine, and you've got a page. Let me just grab an image here to make life simpler. You would think that it would just know when I type in any U that I want this page. But anyway, so let's say that you've got one of these pages here that's that's a main page on your site, even if it's not siloed. It's a main concept in your site. And this page has got, that main page is going to have a main keyword, and they're going to be subordinate topics that you're going to have on your site that talk about that. So this is completely off the cuff, so I might have to do a little trial and error to see what happens. Let's say that backpain is one of your silos. You come in here and, do I already have a filter on? No, good. All right. There's a couple of different filters that we can apply. You would drill into whatever it is the topic is of that silo theme. And we've got, we can look at Jimmy's supporting keywords. That might be a good one.
I like that filter. It's nice.
Good. So what we're looking for are some keywords that we want to use. So what we do is we take a silo, we take an entire silo, and the silo is going to become a WR2 site. So that whole concept of back pain is going to become one or more WR2 sites. So if you've already got a silo structure, if you've already got a keyword DNA, then you've already got the basis of the keywords that are going to be in your WR2. And what you're going to want to do is drill into all of the parent themes in that entire silo and collect a set of keywords for each one of those ideas. So you can do something like this and collect those keywords. The other query that's really cool is, let me just see if Matt's is in here yet. No, not yet. It's coming. It'll happen today. No, I know I put it in here. Where did it go? Default. Jimmy. What did we call it? Wait, I can look.
That's a good name. Give me a second. Look this up.
Right?
I can tell you how to write it. It was a really good description we came up with there for it.
I know. It's got to be in here.
I got it here. Give me a second. I went yesterday.
There's a filter. Wow. It should have been like right at the top because I just added it. That's just annoying. Matt's interesting. Yeah, that's it, Brian. Where do you see that?
Yeah. I've got the description you write. Should I read it out, Sue?
No, just help me find it on the screen.
Press Control F for Matt.
Tech One Skype room. Yeah, I just did a search for Matt and it's not here. It's like maybe they deleted it. I didn't install it in a column, did I?
No.
No.
Jimmy Anchor default. Jimmy.
It's not here. There's no Matt here. Wait. Maybe I didn't put Matt in the beginning of it. Interesting. Oh, here it is. He just didn't include Matt in the beginning of it. Ah! No, that's Longtails. That's a different one.
Okay.
No,
Scroll
that's
down
it.
a bit.
That's it. There's only one of one match.
I can tell you how to write it quick.
He's deleted it instead of like adding it. Ah! All right. Do you have the logic from yesterday? Can you just Skype it to me?
Yeah, if you just go to let me throw you the text file.
Oh yeah, it was in a text file.
Yeah.
I should have it. Hang on, 2 seconds while I'm still. Downloads. By date. By folder name. Come on, baby.
I'll read the description through what you gave us last night.
Okay.
Basically, we described this filter as the purpose is to give you alternate expressions of a seed keyword. It can expose missed opportunities, provide keyword diversity to increase traffic by ranking better and avoiding Google penalties by focusing too much on a single money term. For example, tombstone versus gravestone in this example. Okay, so like with one of our tech students, we did an example on that, and tombstones proved to be 5 times more profitable than the original keyword he was looking at. So this filter gives us the ability to look at the different ways things are expressed, and we can use them in our WR2s.
Yeah, so when you think of back pain, you've got ideas like healthcare, health articles, health news, health questions, things that are totally not, they don't have either the word back or the word pain in them. Those are the white ones. And then the yellow ones are going to have either back or pain in it, but not the entire thing. So this can be really great for complete alternatives.
There's a whole different a way of speaking about it, back problems.
Yeah.
So
these are also good. Dang, spinal stenosis. So these can be some really great keywords to throw in along with the other filter. And we will get that filter in there today. I don't know what that happened to it. It must just be a moment. This is what happens when you hire more programmers. Things get crazier, not better. No, it's all good.
Kind of true.
All right. Yeah, there will be a moment of, ah!
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so that was what I wanted to cover in TLKT. So you're going to want to create an entire keyword DNA set of concepts for your WR2 site. And we'll get more into that next week. But what I want you to do between here and there are collect some of the keywords. Make sure you've got your keywords for your one silo from your WR1 site, and collect some keywords, however you want to do it. I mean, it shows you some really easy ways in TLKT, but you're certainly not bound by that. So collect some keywords that we're going to use for the WR2 site, and if you've got time, you might want to go into Network Empire Builder and sort of make your site DNA there. So in other words, this is going to be a silo-structured site, right? So the concept of, let me come back here to the image so that we're not just like talking complete theory here. So your silo pops up and becomes your home page concept for the entire site. And then what had been, let me just take a screenshot of this so I can get two versions of it on the screen at the same time and maybe draw some lines. All right, so this silo is going to become this home page, and these category level pages are going to become your silo level pages, and it's quite okay to not have anything further down than that. So what you're going to want to build out in Network Empire Builder, if you've got the time, is actually create this DNA braid right here and throw in some supporting keywords for each one of your silo pages so that you know, as we start to do like auto-gen traffic, you've got keywords for that auto-genning traffic, and we know where we're going. Now, also, you want to think about this, like how are you couching this site? Like what's the purpose of this site? It's going to draw traffic. Do you want to target a particular niche within the back pain market? So like let's just think about back pain for a nanosecond. I don't know too much about it, but we can make some stuff up. So you've got younger people that are troubled by back pain, and then obviously you've got older people that are troubled by back pain. And the causes for those back pains are probably going to be radically different, but perhaps you have a solution that covers both. So I could see that if you have a solution that covers both, you're probably going to want a different set of keywords for the younger people, and you definitely want a younger looking site. Like you don't want to have some guy in his 30s with back pain issues hitting this site that's got a bunch of old people on it, because he's just going to not relate, and you know, like that just makes him feel worse, right? So you want to think about what kind of demographic this person is, or this site is going to be for, where are they in their buying cycle, what's the purpose, what are you doing, what are you trying to express, okay? So think about all that as you're doing your keywords. And let's back up here to the homework aspect. And there's a couple of other things I need for you to do. I need for you to set up the one-feed supercharger. You can grab a copy of it here, completely free. Included as a part of the course, obviously. Find a selection of 3 RSS feeds from your market's industry leaders. In other words, not your money site's RSS. It doesn't have anything to do with your sites and your social media stuff. It's somebody else's stuff. I want like either their blogs or their YouTube feeds or something that's juicy. It can be like a Pinterest feed, or it's got to be something that's got some pretty good frequency of publish. going on, and it should be some juicy stuff, like content that you would actually want to read. So I want you to find at least 3 of those RSS feeds, and then I want you to collect a list of all of your feeds from your money site's social media platforms. So in other words, your money site's probably got a YouTube and maybe a Twitter account at the very least, and if you've got Storify, Skeepit, Pinterest, Delicious, we list quite a few here. If you've got a G+, you can use our G+ RSS to create a feed out of that. And we've got a page here over on our wiki that gives you links on how to find a good chunk of some of the more obscure, harder to find things for the common platforms. Is that enough homework? You guys still with me? Give me a 1 if you're still with me and all that makes sense, and a 2 if you've got a question on the homework.
I don't want to do any homework.
Too bad, you're in the wrong class. I got this.
Okay.
All right.
Looks like everybody hears you.
All right, good. What was the wiki page? It's right here. It's linked on the bottom of this page and the bottom of the homework page. And what it is it's the list. So like if you're having problems finding your YouTube feed, you can come here, you can click on that, and it'll take you to a page that exactly describes how to find your YouTube feed. This is all Russell's hard work.
Oh, we're going to add some more stuff to that, but we also
Mike,
have...
don't. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. What did Mike say? Something snide? You
Yeah.
want to bust him? Okay, I'm not going to read it.
Complaining. No.
That's okay.
What were you going to say? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nothing really. Oh, yeah, just make sure you have your list of your feeds around and start keeping track of them. You'll be glad that you did, because at the end of your journey through developing your first socially activated semantic web integrated one web and perpetual downstream domain authority stacking and traffic system, you are going to need them.
Whoops. Keywords.
I said that without looking, Mike, by the way. It takes know your memes to a whole different level. Okay.
I said site, I mean structure.
Yeah.
All right, structure. All right, so, and then I think we can get back to the technical stuff. I'm wondering if I want to actually do that today, or if I want to try it first and make sure that it's not going to blow up on me.
That didn't sound very reassuring, just for next time. Just letting you know.
What? All right.
No, it's
hang on
okay.
a second. I'll give you a. I'll show you what I do for part of my hardening.
That's something actually we could. Is important enough that we could actually do a video on it, because a couple things have changed. So.
True. Well, yeah. So I just want to give you one important concept that, like, 99.9% of infiltrators are averted. Oops. I can't type and talk at the same time. It's pathetic. 99.9% of the people trying to hack my sites are averted by this one thing.
Yeah.
So, good old shell. Not for the faint of heart. So, I am at the root of my blog, my money blog, and I'm going to do a list of all the files. You can get the same kind of list in your FTP. You can probably do all of this through FTP, but
It's not very easy. It's not very easy.
Old-fashioned. Yeah, I mean, you can do a change on and a change mod from within FTP, but it's just simple for me to do it this way, and I'll show you what it is that I do. So I have a user that is not in the www group called Subi. She's not got any privileges, and it's just a user that I created. You can create it however, cPanel, whatever. And so I go in and I change. I have a script actually that I run to lock everything. So I do a chown, which means I'm changing the ownership recursively to this user, this unprivileged user called Subi. This is the path to my blog, and I change it for everything underneath. And then the splat is a wild card, right? So it's going to do everything, but there's a few things that it doesn't do. A splat doesn't include things that have got just a single dot, so I have to do .ht access manually. I have to do the current working directory manually, or what is in this case my current working directory. And then there's a few things that I have to set back to www, being the owner, in order for things to work and for my business partners to just not be really mad at me, because this has to, right, the backups folder has to be writable by www so that it can actually create a file when it does backups. The uploads folder, you can make this more specific. You can make it just the month, but the more you tighten that down, then the more you got to be on top of it and go loosen it back up again when the month changes, that kind of thing. And then, for some reason, Optimized Press just requires files in there to be owned by www, otherwise it just doesn't work properly. So, interesting, I got managed WP in there twice, but anyway, oh, that's just going to be the folder that it's changed in there. And then I have to put sitemap.xml back to www so that as the sitemap changes, as you add posts and stuff like that, that it can be written to. So since I have started this practice, I haven't been hacked, knock on wood. I've got...
It'd be pretty tough. It'd be pretty tough.
So I got two of these. I've got lock and then I've got unlock, right? So that makes it easy for me. All I got to do is come in when I want to install a new... I want to update WordPress, I want to install a new plugin, I want to do whatever. That's the other reason why I use Shell, because I open up Shell, I unlock it, I leave Shell open on one of my monitors so that I remember that it's unlocked. I do whatever it is that I want to do. I try really hard that if I'm getting called away for more than just a few minutes to lock it back up again, and yeah, that's it. It's really simple, it's really straightforward, because Apache or an Apache user does not own these files. Yeah, somebody running Apache can't write to them.
Yeah, that's the server that owns the files.
Yeah, yeah, it's a level. Right. It's just a simple user that owns all those files. Okay, so do we have any questions with that?
I would like to add that I strongly recommend that you, on your sites that are super valuable, doing this, keeping in mind that there's things that you will no longer be able to do without unlocking that, such as plugin updates, such as theme changes or updates. Keep in mind that your marketing department will hate you, but there is it doesn't matter, because you really want to make sure that sites that have high value are not going to get hacked. That's really the main thing to realize, that you will have to lock and unlock should you go this route on your sites. And that can become quite tedious if you got 50 to 100 sites. So, we get into more aspects of that at the live event. But.
Yeah, this is something that I do with all of my money sites.
Yeah. And
I don't typically bother with that particular aspect of hardening WordPress on my WRT sites, but it's an important enough thing I thought I'd share.
Yeah, and even if you're not doing this right now, something to aspire to, and then read the documents. Did we link to the hardening WordPress file? In the homework?
No.
Probably should have that. Okay, I'll jot that down as a note.
I'm doing it right now.
And Welton, that will probably help address the question that you asked, specific to yourself. I didn't say just for money sites, Welton. I said a minimum of your money site.
Yeah, you got to lock your sites down in money ones, because Like let's say, for example, when they hit her, I was down for 4 hours. The site was down.
Yeah.
So if it was a super busy site with a lot of transactions happening, that's costing you money every time that site's down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like if it's a transactional site the way Network Empire is, then glory be. You roll it back to your last backup, and then you got to go back and put in all of the PayPal transactions that happened again in the meantime.
Yeah.
That's just ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got that.
Yes, set up the user accounts. It becomes a mess.
Yeah. All right. So the other thing that we were going to do was, I took notes on this. Close a bunch of stuff. What was, remind me guys, what was the other thing? Oh, here we go. Hardening WordPress. Oh, that was something else that I wanted to show you. All right, so check this out. This is a trick from Kevin Polly. Something that I had never actually considered before. All right, when you create, hopefully my blog will cooperate today. When you create your blog, by default, your admin user, your number one admin user is user ID number 1, right? And so that actually creates a security issue. So they can hack you by using your user ID. So what, and I'm just looking to see if there was some really obvious place where it shows the user ID, but I'm not seeing it. So what Kevin tends to do is he will come in here and make an arbitrary number of accounts. Like he'll just make 15, 20, whatever, some random number larger than 5, and then he'll pick one of those and make them the new admin. So it's not going to have admin as the username. It's going to have whatever for an email address. And that user should not ever create posts. You see how I've got literally 3,251? And they thought I was joking the other day about 3,542 posts. They're all by the admin user, which is just exactly not the thing to do, because then on any of your posts you can see what a user name is that's got power, and you can try to hack your blog in that way. So those are a couple other safety. You should
be changing your username to a real person's name anyways on the user profile, and that will help a bit, but you still need to follow these instructions. For example, it won't be revealed as my admin CTT on your post if you change it to Sue Bell, for instance.
Ah, gotcha.
So you go in Edit, and this is something obviously, yeah, put your first and of course whatever profile you're using. And then that will at least be on the profile. It's kind of important if you're using things like super comments and the rest, other things.
Publicly displayed as show user. All right.
But not yet. You should yeah. So
cool.
That'll help that a bit. But I still would be careful. Like I've never really actually looked at the code to see if the ID is still. You never know. I don't know if he still has the. But that being said, is also Video Kraken 2.0 is going to automatically generate users, and I mean that one coming out, Dominator, Video Kraken Dominator.
Yeah.
And there's a plugin, automatic user ID plugin part of that, which will be good.
Yep, that's a little ways down the road, though.
Yeah, I've got a plugin somewhere that generates a bunch of users just instantly. Should try to figure that one out for you guys.
Okay.
I'll put that on the list.
Oh, and a .htaccess file. All right, let's look at that, because I do actually have shell up now. Dun, 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 dun. So the first thing, you guys want me to do this? Oh, somebody asked, Wilton I think asked, can you do it through FTP because it's on a Mac? So it doesn't matter whether or not you're on a Mac. This is SSH, and I think it's even Bitwise has got SSH from Macs, but I know you can get it because Kelly's got it and he runs Macs. So, but if you're not comfortable with that, let me just find my FTP. Hang on a second. where did my FTP go? Did I close it? Let's open it again. All right. So what to do if you're on FTP. So I'm on secure FTP. I don't use just regular FTP for my money sites. That's a whole other class. And you can come down here, so you can highlight something, you can come down here to properties, you can come over here to permissions, and you can change the owner ID. It's a little bit more complicated. You have to actually know the owner ID that you want to change it to. So you would just change the owner ID, you don't need to change the group ID, and you can leave the read, write, and execute permissions the way they are. So that's at least how you do it here. I know some of the other FTP clients I've used, I can actually put in a username and I don't have to actually put in an owner ID. So yeah, you can do it that way, and I think you can probably grab a whole bunch. You can't change properties in more than one file at a time. So that's why I use shell. The other thing I do is I've got lock and unlock right here when I log in, so I don't have to log in and then go over to my actual blog to lock and unlock the files, which is really useful. There's one of my servers where I've got like a dozen different blocks. I've got, lockthemezoom.com, locksu.com, lock whatever the domain name is, so that I know what I'm locking and unlocking. All right, that's that. That htAccess was the other thing I was going to look at. So let me just less it rather than actually edit it. This is a pretty generic htAccess file. So when you install a blog, typically it comes with a .htAccess file. And so what I would do, I'm here, I could do all this through FTP, probably be more comfortable for guys. Let me just figure out where I am and how to get to where I want to be. Whoops. All right, so what I'm going to want to do, this is my desktop. Let me just make a folder here. So I always like to start wherever it is that I'm on my computer. I want to start in a clean folder because I don't want to mess these kinds of things up. Your whole site can absolutely. You see, I've got different versions of htAccess here, and this was before. This is a screwed up one where my htAccess was, my whole site was compromised before I started locking it down the way that I showed you. So I'm going to start by dragging htAccess over to my site. I'm going to edit it on my computer. I'm not going to edit it here because I'm going to do the whole thing through FTP for you. But then what I would do is, you see I've got one here called good. I do that every time. So you can see that this file size is different from that file size. So I'm going to blow this away, and I'm going to copy it back again as a .good. This is not what I wanted to do. Come on. Dash good. Copy it back. Don't do these kinds of things late at night when you're tired. Make sure you've got a fresh cup of coffee. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So,
that's great advice, actually.
I like Notepad++ personally, just because see if I can just, well, not quite that way. Because, like, think about this for a second. If you make a mistake and things go really wrong, then you're sleepy already, and now you're sleepy and you're trying to fix something. Right? Okay, Notepad++. A lot of times when files come over from Unix, they don't have a control line feed, right? And DOS, Windows is expecting 2 separate characters to make a new line, where Unix just looks for 1. So regular Notepad will oftentimes scrunch the file up into an unreadable mess. So I like Notepad++ because of that. So you're here, and we should get that code from wherever it was that we were. I haven't actually tried these code snippets, so this might not work. But I had Mike look at it and tell me that it was good, so I'm just going to throw him under the bus right now. If this doesn't work, it's Mike's fault.
Ha! Dang. He says, screech. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. I'm off the hook.
He thought it was going to be fun to work with us.
Right.
Little did he know.
Screech.
Oh, well.
All right, so this stuff, obviously from the comments you can tell that that's for DAP, and this stuff looks like the stuff that's normally for WordPress. So I would probably come in here and make a couple of comments. I'm just going to copy this so that I know I got the right syntax. And I'm going to say TFC for modifications. Okay. And then I'm going to like protect your WP config. I'm just going to pick that up and try dropping it in here and see if that looks okay to me. Files, all right. And prevent directory browsing. We can do that. The first line there is going to be a comment, obviously. So if it's got a pound in the beginning, that means it's a comment. And tell me if I'm doing something wrong, Mike, okay? Disable any hot linking. So I can turn the rewrite engine on multiple times. This is fascinating. I am not exceptionally good with Apache code, so I'm just kind of like looking at this for a second. Because it says rewrite engines on once, and then you've got the last line, and then you've got more rewrite conditions, and you've got the last line. So I'm kind of thinking that I don't want to turn it on again. I just want to put the conditions in here.
Right, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, those all set right?
They're all set up as individual units, so you right-click through.
Okay.
Because you've already turned you've turned the rewrite on at the top.
Right. Mike was saying that I need to not put it within the if module. Then we've got, didn't we do this? Files. No, just looks somewhat similar. No! Good.
Now get rid of the bottom files. That's the files is opening at the above there. It's closing the saying open those and then closing off.
Read the instructions. It goes in a separate .htaccess file. Oh, yeah. I see.
Drop it into the directory.
Oh, I see. All right, so that's what I get for not reading. This is why we go through it, so you guys don't make the same mistakes I'm making. and then protect the .htaccess itself. So we could put this in both.
Yes.
All right. All right. Are we good?
Let's have a look here.
Because this is going to go on networkempire.com, so, don't make me screw it up.
You got a backup?
You saw me make it.
Just double checking. You copied the right one.
Oy vey.
All right, I'm going to save it. Oh, Brian was saying rewrite engine off.
Where's that?
Because I don't turn it off. I turn it on way up at the top, but I don't turn it off. Do I need to turn it off at the bottom?
Not sure about that.
And Mike was saying that the refer might want to go inside. The refer should probably go inside the if module.
Yeah. Open, close. Open, close. That should be fine, that.
What? The non-technical people are leaving?
Off inside the if module, closing tag 2 probably. So this should go inside the if module. Closing tag 2, which it opens inside. Okay, so he's saying that because we do the if module rewrite.c and then we turn the rewrite engine on, so we want to turn the rewrite engine off before we close that if module. That makes sense. I've never actually done it either, Mike. I have no idea, but we'll find out here in a nanosecond. Right? All right, so I'm going to save this. Right?
htaccess dash question mark.
So Mike said stop, fix your domain and the refer.
Yeah.
Oh, oops. Yeah.
Need some more coffee.
Networkempire.com. No, that's why I got all these eyes. So, because like literally, if I make the mistakes, then everybody's going to see all the mistakes that are easy to make. Okay. I'll give you a break, Mike. I'm not picking on you too badly, am I? All right. He's saying it's like 4 o'clock in the morning there. All right, so let's try that. I'm going to save that. So I'm going to bring my FTP back up. And I'm going to double check that my good got written. It's the same size. It's the same date as the original. So I'm happy about that. I know I've got something that I can fall back to. This, as you can see, has got today's date. And so,
Double the size.
yeah, it's a pretty good size. We're going to pull this over. It's going to ask me if I want to replace it. It better flippin' ask me. Oh, it failed. Ha.
Permissions.
I know why it failed. Oh no, I'm CB. I'm CB. It's got right permissions for the owner. That should have worked. Why did it fail? Failure. That's all it says. Fine, great, wonderful.
Did you change the permissions on that actual file to someone else?
No. It's me. So let me just
I get this .old, something like it, yeah.
That'll make it right. So what I did was I just renamed it to temp, and then I pushed the .htxs back over. So now if I do another list, we can see that it's today's date, that it's a whole bunch bigger. All right, so that's our new file. So now here's the test, right? We're going to go to Network Empire and see if it works. Ah!
Dun, 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 dun. Sharks in the water.
Right? Woohoo! That means it's probably at least mostly right. CB or not CB, that is the question. All right. So we've got
/wp-config and see if you can get into that file.
Well, I'm logged in, so of course I'm going to get into it.
No, on the browser.
Well, we're on Kelly's server, so it wouldn't let me anyway. That was already tied down on this server in the Apache master file, the boot file. All right, so it looks pretty good. And I have everything documented in there that I did. So if a week from now I find there's this little fidgety bit that didn't work, I can go back in and start changing, you know, like removing lines or testing stuff to try and figure out what it is that's, you know, like if maybe I can't get to my images or something like that. All right. All right, I need a stiff drink of tequila after that, doing that live on a webinar.
Yeah, you're braver than I am.
Right? Mike was saying, you know, there's an easy way to do that. You can do it through a plugin. Is that what you're talking about, Mike? iTheme security.
Oh yeah, iTheme security, because they're so secure.
Check some boxes, add that code.
Yeah, I need to do that.
Know,
I don't know, man.
I'm old-fashioned, just color me. I like to actually make the backup, because what happens if you use iTheme security and you do something and then it's completely hosed, like what's the recovery method? I'd still have to make the backup first, right?
Brian is saying iThemes gives me grief sometimes. Yeah, and really huge grief if you did something and you can't get.
You know, like
it's a good suggestion, Mike Hayden. I'm not downplaying. I'm just saying it's a yellow flag. It's a little bit.
Here's my thing, right? Like, it's probably from my programming days, but it's like if I go in and I change something and I know what it is that I've changed, then I know that I can change it back. If I put something into a plugin and it changes something, I'm never maybe all that sure what it is that it does or that maybe it did besides changing the .htaccess file. It just causes me that extra layer of
anxiousness.
Of anxiousness. So, and
that being said, I think it's good for the group to look at both perspectives. Like Mike, I really appreciate you offering a quick solution, because those are the kinds that I prefer. Interestingly.
Yeah.
One of the things that's happened to me is just lots of pain. So, yeah, I mean, you guys understand when we say pain, we're talking like $50,000 worth of sales kind of pain. So we're not messing around. Like, we're just saying that consider, like, for example, using Mike's method would be awesome for me if I was working on a site that was like a secondary site or something like that.
Absolutely.
Like WR2. But if we're working on Network Empire, working on a client site where they're generating, $5,000 in revenue a day or more, Sue's going to back it up with her own bare hands. Like, there's just like, so we wanted you guys to at least see the difference. And that being said, I think we could list Mike Hayden's commerce thing with a disclaimer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. For WR2 sites, anything that there's 2 or 3 plugins out there that'll modify the .htaccess file.
Yeah.
I haven't used the iThemes one personally, but I've used others. And for WR2 sites, I have no issue with that whatsoever because, worst case scenario, I just pull the entire site down and rebuild it. Like, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, the one thing that I will say, because my methods are old-fashioned, it also makes me a little bit slower to adopt. I've
Yeah.
watched that recently. Like, I can really see that I've turned another decade, and that, you know, kids that are 20, they're out there doing stuff, and I cringe a little bit around the edges, but, you know, stuff
Because they
works
have no
faster.
idea.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
don't, but at the same time, they're able to work faster and produce a lot of stuff
yeah.
because they don't have those inherent cringes that have
Hmm.
just followed me from
Yeah.
years gone by. So
Yeah. And so, knowing all the main thing here that we want you guys to know is all the different layers and the pros and cons of how deep you want to go. We figure if we take you all the way down the rabbit hole, you can make decisions based on. I mean, if you guys have a $5,000 data grader site, you want to do this, especially if you're using WordPress. First of all, whether you're on WordPress or not for the sites is a huge consideration.
right.
And that being said, if you are, then I strongly recommend that you just get something in your team to do it. So you just go right to the root and just deal with it like that. I've actually had to do that on a couple of things recently, and I was glad that I did. I couldn't do it myself, to be really honest. I had to have Kevin, last time Sue wasn't available, walk me through Shell on something. So just consider the money as your determination for security. It is okay to have that friction point when there's that much money involved.
Exactly.
When you're dealing with a lot of sites, then you might want to consider what Mike is saying, like, go to themes, there's a few other services like that work as well. Okay, cool. We've been really going on. So we're about
90 minutes?
2.5 hours in.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys, first of all, give me one if you got something out of today's webinar, and two if you
Want to be whipped.
went ahead. If you pretty much knew all the stuff that we covered.
3 for both. I enjoyed it, but I want to be whipped. That was Jonathan.
Oh my goodness, we have a whole, their certification's going to be fun.
Okay.
You'll all be naughty boys.
All right, good. So you guys have been, Vincent saying he misses the web.
Just come back to cert.
I don't know if Vincent's coming this year, but if you don't.
He's not, and I don't know why.
Well, that's okay. Okay, so
right.
Today is February 11th.
Yes.
And the next event is next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat cave. And we are going to go, can we give an overview about what we'll be talking about next week, Sue?
We're going to talk about keywords and linking structures.
Okay.
So linking between, we're going to start to talk about feeds. We're going to get into feeds and how you can use feeds to generate content and to link. And it's mostly nuts and bolts technical stuff for the first couple of weeks. And then we'll start to get into higher level stuff of actually putting your site together more toward the end of the course. So it's going to be a little bit of theory, but we're going to actually take the keywords that you figure out this week and start plugging them into charts so that you get a really clear understanding, because that's the part that I want to make sure that you guys are really super clear on, is because it's super easy when you start building sites like this to just run yourself smack into a Panda penalty. So.
Yeah, right. Okay, that sounds great. And thank you guys so much. This has really been a great kickoff. And I also want to thank you. This is the first launch of the Perpetual Mastermind Group Certification Level 4 Automatic RSS Broadcasting. It's going to be great, and also it's helpful for us because we know a lot of you and really appreciate you giving the feedback. As you know, this particular area is going to be, like all the other Perpetual Masterminds, is going to be enhanced, and there's a lot of software that are going to be associated. This is kind of wrapping up the entire network, so those of you who have gone from front to back are really starting to see how all these things, these moving parts, will be working together, and the software that we're developing and have already developed that will make this better. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Anything else to add, Sue, Matt, before we wrap this up? All right, we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Good night, everyone.
Oh, this will be uploaded as a webinar replay in the members area. The webinar replay page, I don't believe has been made, but it should be up there by the end of the day. I've got a lot of uploads
at the bottom of the menu.
Okay, excellent. All right, thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Bye-bye.